More Black Houses Matter with Cook County Treasurer Maria Pappas on the Talk of Chicago, 1690 WVON.
I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me and you. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Good morning, Chicago.
Good morning here. Welcome to Black Houses Matter on WVON Radio. Now, I know everyone was expecting to hear from Treasurer Maria Pappas today. She couldn't make it this Monday or next Monday, so she asked me to fill in for her. Who am I? I'm Hal Dardick. I was a Tribune reporter, investigative reporter for many years, and now I'm the director of research for the past 5 years for Treasurer Pappas. And I'm sorry to say it, but unlike the treasurer, I don't wear bedazzling jackets, as the folks on Facebook that are watching this can see. And as you heard earlier, I do not sing, but I do have fabulous Treasurer's Office employee David Gordon with me with his dulcet tones. So,
Hey, what's up, Chicago?
Thanks, David. So I do know a thing, though, or two about the property tax system and how it has affected the Black community. And I know that that's super important in the Black community because after generations and generations, the struggle to build generational wealth continues today. And anytime the taxes burden folks, it makes it a lot harder to build that generational wealth. So we try to identify the things that are unfair in this system. We do studies and we try to propose solutions.
Good.
And we've had some success and we continue to work on that. But, you know, and David works the front desk on occasion. He does many things at the office. He's been there how many years, David?
It's been 37 years now, heading for 38.
God bless you, man.
Thank you.
So he hears every day how taxes affect people, and he's going to help me explain some of those struggles to you. First, I want to do a little feature that Treasurer Pappas often does, and she features a feel good or a quirky story in the news. Now we could talk about the Artemis II and how wonderful that went, or the fabulous rescue of our airman in Iran. But I wanted to do something a little quirkier today.
All right. We could use some quirky.
Okay. There's a guy named Greg Phillips. He just happens to be a top official with the Federal Emergency Management Association, where he oversees 1,000 employees with a $300 million budget. But recently, he's been in the news not because he's addressing disasters, but because he claims that the hand of God teleported him to a Waffle House in Rome.
Say what?
so okay. But, you know, not Rome, Italy, which would be kind of cool. You know, you could go in there and you could go see Michelangelo's David or something. No, he was teleported to a Waffle House in Rome, Georgia, about 50 miles from his home. That's according to all sorts of news stories over the weekend. I'm a huge Star Trek fan. I've dreamed of teleporting. That'd be really fast. I'd like to go to the Great Wall of China. Maybe Rome. Rome would
be nice. You know. For me, Flagstaff, Arizona. I love Grand Canyon.
Okay. but Mr. Phillips, you know, he said he was kind of amazed by it, but he said teleporting is not fun. So I guess it was kind of a bummer for him. So I don't think you've ever teleported.
Not quite in my imagination when I'm watching Star Trek, sure. But
there you go.
Other than that, no.
Okay. So since the treasurer, now getting back to more serious business, since the treasurer hired me about 5 years ago because she wanted to conduct in-depth studies of the property tax system and look for solutions to the problems that we found, We've done 9 major studies, 5 annual tax bill analysis, 4 property tax collection reports, and created a property tax primer that breaks down the tax system for everybody. And I encourage you all to go to cookcountytreasurer.com if you want to see these studies for yourself. We try to write them in a way that's understandable to the public. But the Pappas studies is the light blue box on the left-hand side. You can find pretty much all of our work right there. But before we get into those studies, let's address a recent development. Last year, when we did our property tax analysis, we found that because commercial values had dropped in the loop, and because of that, they were being taxed less. That's the way the property tax system works. It's an ad valorem tax. You're taxed on the value of something. The values dropped. So residents across the city picked it up. We had a record median increase, but it was particularly rough in 15 South and West Side communities that are predominantly Black in the city of Chicago. They all saw their median property tax bill increase by at least 30%, with West Garfield Park getting hit with a whopping 133% median increase. Now, David.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
That is terrible. And you said this is happening because of what again?
Now, what happens is because everybody's property is assessed, and your percentage of the total assessment in the city is what you pay in property taxes.
Okay.
So generally, if everybody's assessments go up at the same time, everybody will see the same increases, and there are increases every year.
Yes.
But if somebody's goes down, somebody else's has to go up, because it's a zero-sum game. They want to reach that finite property tax levy, which is why local governments like it, because they're always going to get the money, but it can create shocks in the system to the actual people that are paying it. Now,
the little people,
yeah,
right?
in this case, the loop lost tremendous amounts of value, and you can understand why if you walk through the loop today. So many vacant buildings,
yes,
so many shops closed, and so their values dropped. At the same time, in those West and South Side communities, folks since the pandemic have been looking for less expensive housing, and they've been moving in to communities that were neglected. They've been fixing up properties, building properties. Now, that's a good thing.
It is.
For the city. But what happens is it raises the values of the property in the area.
Whether you do home improvements or not, right?
Well, right, because they're doing it at a mass appraisal system. That's where appeals come in. You can go in to the assessor or the board review and say, hey, I think you've taxed me too much, or you've raised my assessment too much. I didn't fix my roof. I haven't rehabbed my home. This is falling apart. Got the 1960s kitchen or whatever.
Right.
And then you might be able to get that reduced. But folks in these communities are not, historically haven't appealed in the numbers that they do in other communities. So when the taxes shift, they get particularly hard because they haven't appealed.
Okay.
And because their values are rising while the commercial values are going down, that all shifts to them. To
the little people, unless we file an appeal.
That's right. And that may help, it may not help. But the problem is these shifts that have been occurring since the pandemic, and the shifts cause the problem.
Because of businesses leaving downtown.
Businesses leaving and home prices going up. Homeowners have been hit harder in each of the last 3 years wherever they were assessed.
Yeah, myself included.
Yeah. So what are you hearing today? You must have heard people come in and say, oh my gosh, how do I handle this sudden increase in my taxes?
Yes, I've heard that a lot. And as a matter of fact, there was one person in particular, she was crying on the phone for at least an hour, saying that I think she was like somewhere around the South Shore area. And she was saying that they quadrupled her taxes. She owns a 3-story building in which she lives in one of the units herself. and she cried for an hour because she said her taxes went. It was like 15,000. It went close to 40,000.
Wow.
And she said she was crying on the phone and said, telling me to do something. Do something. I don't want to lose my building. This is family owned. I don't want to lose it. And I told her, I said, there is nothing much I can do from this end except for you can try to file an appeal and see what happens from that point. She said, but I'm going to lose my home. I'm going to lose my property. What do I do? And I said, I feel for you, but there's not nothing I can do from this end.
Yeah, that's right. People have to understand the treasurer's office doesn't determine the bills. We calculate it based on the information given to us, but it's a set calculation, and it's the other taxing districts that are increasing their taxes. And I want to remind folks that Treasurer Pappas has reduced her staff, has entered a program with the banks where they are funding most of our system. And so the amount we have increased taxes, actually we've reduced property taxes and this, but other taxing offices have increased them. So we can't control that. We can't, once it's billed and they have all their exemptions and so forth, we're stuck with that. So we can't help you, but there are some things we can help you with.
Very good.
There are some things that we can help you with in case you don't have your homeowner's exemptions. So if you live in your house that you own, the folks who live in their own home can get a break. They get a reduction in their assessment. Now there's a homeowner's exemption. Who qualifies for that, David?
Homeowners, it's anybody who's owned their property for a year or more. There is no age limit. There's nothing like that. As long as you've owned the same property, you're the primary owner of that property, you can get a homeowner's exemption after you've been in the property for a year. Homeowner exemption usually will save you about $500 or more off of your property taxes. And then for senior exemptions, it's for you silverhead seniors, 65 and older.
Guys like us.
Guys like us, that's right. Yes. Once you hit 65, you can then qualify for not only the homeowners, but also the senior citizens exemption. And if you are for the seniors who own a very limited income, you can qualify for the senior freeze exemption. Now, your income has to be below $65,000 a year, and you have to have proof of that, maybe a income letter, Social Security, an income letter, 65,000 and under for seniors who are on a limited income and are struggling to make ends meet.
Didn't they increase the minimum salary? I think it's going to go up.
It is. It's going to next year.
Next year,
it's going to go up to 75,000 a year. If you have less, if your income is less than 75,000 a year, you can then also qualify for the senior.
Yeah.
freeze
So some
exemption.
seniors who may have lost that because their Social Security increase should next year pay attention to that in case they qualify again.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good.
Yeah. Yeah. So now people also, if they've missed them in previous years, they can go back, 4 years?
They can go back 4 years. They can go back as far as 21 and up, but no further as far as I know. I'm sure they make some exceptions. There was one disabled veteran, Navy officer. I think he's his daughter called. He's 100 years old.
Wow.
He never got any of his exemptions at all. None. They went way back for him, and he's going to get quite a few exemptions that he missed. He's got quite a few refunds coming that he missed. That's one exception that they're making for this guy who's 100 years old, disabled naval officer. Yeah.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, and of course, that's what Treasurer Pappas does a ton on this show. She features folks who came in, got those exemptions, and got some nice checks for thousands of dollars.
Ooh, yes. Okay. Someone has a question concerning appeals.
Yeah, we'll take a question before we move on here real quick.
Good,
Hi.
Good morning.
I was calling because I heard you say the appeal process is the process needed to help get the taxes down. But my question is, when you have exemptions, such as senior exemptions and things like that, are you still able to appeal?
Oh, yes. As soon as you get that assessment notice in the mail, and you got to pay attention, it's not your tax bill, it's an assessment notice, and you'll get it at least once every 3 years and more often if your assessed level changes out of cycle for some reason. And when you get that notice, you have 30 days to go to the assessor and make an appeal. If you don't go to the assessor, you can go to the board of review, or you can do both, actually. But anybody can appeal the assessed value of their property.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Now, let's talk a little bit about the studies. We have been doing these studies, and what we've noticed is that certain features of the property tax system have caused a lot of inequities, and probably more often than not, it affects lower income communities and the Black communities in particular. And I say communities instead of community because there's different areas of the city, there's different suburbs. There are many Black communities really in the broader Chicago area and Cook County. So one of the first major studies we did was called Maps of Inequality. And this digs into the deep history of the racism that plagued would-be Black homeowners for decades and decades. So we documented how redlining, the practice of discouraging mortgages in minority areas. So after World War II, when everybody was getting a mortgage, Black folks couldn't get that mortgage because of this redlining that occurred around the time of World War II. So they weren't able to build the generational wealth that the white communities were able to build. And that led, because they couldn't get a mortgage, to this insidious practice called contract buying. Now, in contract buying, unscrupulous lenders would basically make someone make a massive down payment that was far exceeded what they would have if they bought it in the regular bank mortgage market. And once they made that massive down payment, they were they didn't hold the deed to the property, and they weren't building any equity. They had to make payments every month, and those payments tended to be high, with high interest rates. And the minute they missed one, they'd kick them out of the house. And they had and they'd lost all their equity. So in that case, the equity was actually taken from them, and later that was ultimately outlawed, but that in the 60s. But that practice, and then other housing discrimination, it would be the difficulty in getting a mortgage. If you're a Black person, they praise the value of your home. They say it's not worth what you would buy it for, even though many people would buy it for that amount. For a long time, there were inequities in the property tax system, which have largely been addressed right now, where underpriced homes were overvalued. But all these things have made it really tough for Black folks to build that generational wealth. And we continue to look at those problems.
Wow.
And then the second major study we did, and again affecting in many cases Black communities, was called How Wealthy Investors Are Making Millions Exploiting Illinois Property Tax Law. Now that documented how tax buyers were exploiting these arcane, hard to understand loopholes. They certainly understood them in the property tax system. And when they purchased taxes on a property, they get that money paid back to them with lots of interest, and they make money that way, and they get out of it for little reasons. And what happens is the school districts, the local city halls, the park districts, etc., had already been given that money and spent it. And now they're going, and because they're getting refunds, they're taking that money back out of the system. So this is harming the ability of these minority communities to provide the necessary services that people expect when they pay their taxes. Now, the good part is we do these studies. We don't do them to sit on a shelf and gather cobwebs. We do them to make a difference in the world.
Good.
And I'm glad to say that those two studies, which were our first two major studies, led to what was called a couple years ago the biggest property tax reform bill in decades. And we closed all those loopholes that the tax buyers were exploiting. We made some corrections at the various county offices to make it harder for them to claim that stuff.
Very
too.
good. Very good.
And then at the same time, because of the difficulty in minority communities of paying the taxes, we got that interest rate. People were paying 1.5% a month or 18% a year when they were making late payments. We cut that in half
Wonderful.
to 9%, which is 0.75% a month. And the beauty of that is it now, as far as we can tell, is the lowest late payment penalty in the United States, but it's also adequate. You want to give people an incentive to pay,
Right.
but it's also adequate to get people to pay. So we made some great improvements, a lot of other things. We've also arranged it since then. So if someone's did lose their get their taxes sold and they're trying to redeem those taxes, in other words, pay them up so that they don't get their house taken from them, they can, we're working on a plan now at the clerk, which the General Assembly authorized to allow partial payments. They don't have to pay it all at once, so make it easier for them to get that deed back.
Very good. Very good.
Free and clear.
So when a tax buyer purchases a property, and the taxpayer have owned their property for many years, and they end up losing the property to the tax buyer, do they keep their equity, or is their equity lost as well?
In many cases, there was equity lost. There is a indemnity fund where some folks were able to get some of that back. As we know, there was a recent Supreme Court ruling that said that, and it wasn't just Illinois, it was more than a dozen states were doing this. Even though they'd ruled earlier that it was legal, they changed their opinion and they said, you can't do that now. You have to give that equity back, just as if your mortgage was foreclosed. If you do have equity,
right,
they will give that back to you.
Very good.
So now the legislature, and it's being led by our policy department, is working on a new set of tax sale rules in an effort to comport completely with the Supreme Court decision. And we're hopeful that we get a good system in place that always and quickly returns the equity to folks who have lost their homes.
Very good.
And the other thing we'd like to make that system do is offer people opportunities as that deadline comes and the deed could be taken for them to get on payment plans if they're trying. So we're not kicking old folks out of their homes or whatever.
Wonderful. And how long does the payment plan last till? How much time?
Well, we haven't got all the specifics yet, but I just want to say I think we're getting near the end of our allotted time here. This went really fast, didn't it, Dave?
It really went
and
fast.
I just want to thank the treasurer for trusting me to fill in today. We'll see if she sends me back next week or not. But next week, we're going to talk again. We did a little bit last week about the 30-year study and how taxes have increased at double the rate of inflation, why, and what we think should be done about it.
Wonderful, wonderful.
So I don't want to leave any dead air here.
Yes.
So let's talk a little bit about that 30-year study. Oh, here it comes. You can sing again, David.
Alrighty.
Bail me out here, buddy.
Red roses too, I see them bloom for me
Testing,
and you.
mic test 1 2.
And I
A's.
think to
It's
myself,
okay.
what a wonderful
I
world.
sound okay. Test 1, 2. Good. Perfect. Okay. Cool. All right.
Great day in the morning, Chicago. Have a fantastic day on this beautiful sunny Monday afternoon. See you next week.
And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow.
Partly sunny and breezy on this Monday, April 6, 2026. I'm in Flournoy and in the headlines. The second annual Spend in the Black event was a major success Saturday as more